Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. On this episode, Sunny's guest is Craig Fulton, Chief Customer Officer, ConnectWise. As Chief Customer Officer, Craig oversees the partner community, the IT nation, and educational teams that empower ConnectWise's customers to succeed in growing their business. The 13-year ConnectWise veteran has held a number of positions during his tenure with the company, including Chief Product Officer, Senior Product Manager, Business Consultant, and System Engineer. Prior to joining the company, he worked for Accenture as a technology consultant and served 5 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Sunny, take it away.
Thank you, Todd. And Craig, welcome to my podcast. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always weird hearing the bio, but I thought to myself, wait a minute, we actually were doing this 10 years ago whenever we were doing some work together over the broadcast. So it's great to be here. Thanks, Sunny.
Yeah. So Craig, why don't we start with defining customer experience? You are a customer experience leader and you have so much experience, knowledge, wisdom. So how would you define customer experience?
Yeah. And, this is something I've actually been obsessed with for a long time. And I'd say it goes back to my childhood. My mother was a librarian. I spent a lot of my time there, and that's a very service-oriented job. And, the library was Google back in the day. You had a question, you'd call a librarian like, hey, who is this? So anyway, and this is a great topic because, our industry has really been transforming a lot lately. And we got to really get focused on the customer. Like technology is important, but you've just seen a lot of people, put a lot of effort on the technology and forget that, hey, there's a customer there and they have an expected outcome. And when we talk about experience, anytime I bring it up when I'm working with a ConnectWise partner or, someone that's a service provider, MSP, they'll say, yeah, our customer experience is great. Our help desk does this, our help desk does that. And I would challenge that and say, well, it's more than just that, right? It's every touch point you have with a customer, starting with marketing, like awareness, like are they aware of the product and service? How does your sales team interact with them, the account manager, the procurement? What's that process like for them? Then the service delivery, and then all the way through to invoicing, right? It's the whole thing. And this topic is great right now because, product management has become a pretty hot career field. And I know you and I have talked a lot about, continued education and some of the courses that, we're interested in leadership, but I've taken some product management courses. One exercise I loved was looking at the customer journey, right? That really helps you get a gauge for what your experience is like, right? So if you just Google like customer journey, I would ask anyone, take a look at what that experience from end to end is like with your customer and rate yourself, and then ask a customer. You might be surprised. But again, the thing, really you want good sentiment all the way through to the very end, even invoicing. I know you think like, well, how could a customer be excited about getting an invoice? But you don't want it to be bad.
Yeah.
You don't want them confused, So anyway, great question. I can ramble about that one for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, to your point, is that end-to-end journey from entry to exit. And at the end of the day is feeling that customer is getting by interacting with your company, your organization, your team. So where do you think this journey starts? So if you look at now the complete journey, does it start with marketing, before marketing? Where does it start?
Well, if it's a prospect, it starts in marketing, right? Because you have to think you can influence that feeling, right? There's a person out there with a business and they have pains and they're looking for those pains to be solved. And if you're making them aware that they can be, that's going to make them feel good. Like, oh, thank goodness there's someone here that can help my business with technology. And they know that, right? Or, there's a lot of push through marketing, like from Microsoft, and a lot of these small businesses out there that we provide services to think like, geez, what am I supposed to be doing that? If you're building awareness that you solve those pains for them, that's a great thing right out of the gate. as far as experience. And look, and experience is important because it is the differentiator anymore, right? It's what you do there that makes you different from everyone else.
Yes, no, absolutely. And especially, so as you mentioned, the finance or accounting, how they treat their customer, from invoicing to collections to any interaction, any touch point that they have, what experience they are giving. And after our prep call, I reflected on that prep call. And one thing that I was talking to our leaders just this morning is like, if I pick one person from delivery, another person from finance, another person from marketing or sales, and if I will ask them, what is IT by Design's customer experience signature? And what do you think will be their answer? And would they have a calibrated answer, or they will have different answers? And it was a very interesting question to kind of just go through with the leaders. And to your point, the customer experience starts that journey. No matter which department is having that touch point, it's not just up to the customer experience team. That feeling comes from all the touch points that all your team members are giving to the customer.
And this is so. I read a lot of these books that people recommend, and I do my best. But there was one thing I read in a customer success book recently, which was loyalty. Right, building loyalty with the customer. And there's two types of loyalty, and people should know this. There's behavior loyalty, and then there's attitudinal loyalty. What you want is attitudinal loyalty. Behavior is, I do it because it's there. It's convenient, right? Like, I go to this gas station because it's on the right-hand side at a right turn where I go to work. That's why I go there. You want attitudinal loyalty, which is, no, I go out of my way. I go an extra mile out of my way to go there because I love the experience, right? We all should be focused on building attitudinal loyalty with customers. ConnectWise has work to do on this too, right? No one's perfect, especially during the pandemic. You have to be intentional with this stuff in the team. You brought up, there's all these different people, right? Think about all those roles you just laid out, sales, tech, and finance. How many businesses can say, those people all get along in my company and they're working together, right? Doubt it. Maybe it is. And because you have to do work, right? You have to get these teams working together. You can't just, a lot of people just assume the magic that you create just spreads through a company. And as your company's growing, I can tell you firsthand, as I started ConnectWise, I was like person number 30, and now we're like 2,300.
Yeah.
You can't just think that this experience is just going to grow with everything. You got to become intentional. You have to create a culture. You have to provide leadership that focuses around it, right? And we've drifted from that too. And we're starting to put attention back on it, like, hey, core value, obsessed with customer success. Core value, your voice, your company, core value, right? So yeah, this is a great topic right now. This is a big one.
Yeah, and when you look at like cross-functional processes, leaders of all these different functions, so I think it's a nice segue to our next point. A lot has changed during pandemic, right? People working from one location or few locations that from companies' offices to work from home. Collaboration in general, having everyone calibrated, having processes, like a sales to finance, finance to service, service to customer experience. So all these cross-functional processes and people, it's a big challenge for every organization. And that challenge is probably now 10x just because all leaders and their teams, they are working from home, and the way they had access to systems and that bullpen type of conversations, they are not there. So from your perspective, what has changed in terms of customer experience practice from people to process delivering customer experience to your customers, and the customer's need from the customer experience perspective? So can you talk to us a little bit of what changed, and what's your advice to our partners? How can they be successful in delivering best-in-class customer experience in the new world?
Yeah. So, in the IT Nation, we have Evolve, those are peer groups, right? And we have Share, which are our user groups. And, and what I've seen and talking to these partners and some of the surveys is the expectation has just gone up, right? That's what the pandemic has created, right? Because look, let's talk about humans. We are creatures of habit. As much as we think maybe we're not and we're different, right? We are of habit, and when things change, anxiety goes through the roof, right? Everyone's value statement got scrambled in March. It was like, wait a minute, especially a service manager. Well, my whole existence in this world has been managing the service team, and I can come in and I can see them. I can tap them on the shoulder. What are you working on? What are you doing this, right? Gone, right? Can't check that, get that, as Simon Sinek would say, get that dopamine hit of, look, I did something today. The customer is going through the same thing, right? And I think that that's a big thing to like sit down with your teams and just have a discussion about. Even still today, it's like, hey, and I've had this conversation too. It's like, hey, we got to give people a little more leeway on, their behaviors and the demands. And look, people are going through a tough time, and it's okay to talk about it, right? I've had to say that a lot too. It's like, it's okay to acknowledge, like for some reason leaders get it in their head that, no, I can't be vulnerable or acknowledge something because it makes me look weak. That is not the case right now. It's okay to say, this sucks. I don't like this. I used to like it like that. But the importance of leading and managing the customers, like focusing on the positive then, right? Like acknowledging that, like, yeah, that's terrible, mirroring that feeling, empathizing, and saying, but how are we going to get through this? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a culture of performance. We're going to create a culture of customer experience. Let's talk about this. Because the demands went up. A lot of, all of a sudden, every customer is at home, and we know that there's still a lot of them out there that have desktops. So it's like, how are they going to do their job? They're anxious about that. Security threats through the roof. People are more vulnerable when they're at home. They're a little more relaxed and more likely to like engage in something, especially some of these emails are very tricky. It's like, it's playing right into our fears. Like, hey, are you working from home and doing this? Like, well, yep. And then they click and whoops, you just gave out their credentials. So, the demands are higher. The cybersecurity threats are through the roof. And I would just tell someone, things are going rogue. As people get home, go home, right? It's like they start getting in their own heads. Everybody's doing this, and you might think like everything's moving along. For me, right, I lead a pretty significant sized team. While a lot of people might complain about, we're communicating too much, in a time like this, that's not a bad problem to have, right? So I started creating like more routine, little quick stand-up meetings. Like, hey, how's everyone doing today? What are you working on? What's going on? Not in a controlling way, but just making sure the team is still unified. Because look, the quickest way to deliver a great experience is having a happy team.
Absolutely.
Now, you can't make people happy, right? So if you think in your mind, I'm going to make these, you can't. You can create an environment where they can find happiness. And so it's important as leaders, as you're running, people that are listening to this and have their own company, you've got to be intentional. We have Dr. Larry Little, who's helped us a lot inside of Evolve with the intentional leadership stuff. And while some were like, okay, more leadership training, that one kind of hit home to me because I've taken we talked about the high impact leadership training that Berkeley has, right? One thing I learned is you have to be intentional. You have to say, okay, I have this idea, let's do it, right? Don't be like, I'll get to it, I'll do this, do that. We have to, with our customers, like doing those little things, and so I'll circle back in. I did start to go down a little rabbit trail there, but okay. It's being very intentional with the customer, like reaching out to them too, not just your team, but to the customer. Hey, how are you doing? Are you good? Yeah. Is there anything we could be doing better? Everyone's world got scrambled, and everyone needs a little, like, just a check-in. Yeah, we're still doing great. Thanks. A customer's never going to say, God, I'm getting tired of you calling me, asking me if I'm okay. Well, if you're doing it like every 3 hours obsessively, but doing it, every couple of weeks, they're going to be like, wow, I really like this. Because, we see a lot of articles on LinkedIn about it. And we see a lot of articles in the news. Like, what one thing this pandemic did was make it humanized everyone. It's like, hey, here I am in my house. Here's my skateboards. And here you're getting more of a view into my life than ever. And we found that people actually like that, right? And I was talking about one of the wildest keynotes we had in IT Nation. Marcus Lemonis came there. He told us a long time ago, you got to be vulnerable, right? Small to medium business is about people. Yeah. People want to connect. They want to know who they're working with. As much as we try and say, it's business, it's not personal. Yeah, it's personal for some because these businesses are everything. It's really hard to separate that. And it's just important right now to just remember the human element.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still people working with people serving people. Yeah. And I love the idea of first starting with your team, that happy team means happy customers, and especially happy customer experience team means happy experience, customer experience. Yeah. So I love that. Start with your internal team, and then also make your partners, special. Especially that, psychological safety, that emotional connect that we need to have. It starts with your team, and then having that emotional connect with your customers, especially in this new world, because everyone is going through their own struggles. And how can we be there as people for each other is that's the best thing we can do, especially now. If there is one thing that has changed from the process perspective, Craig, so now with everyone working from home, your team members, your customers, did you change anything in terms of your processes? Because at the end of the day, it takes people, your processes, and your systems to deliver that experience. So anything that you had to change, you had to pivot in terms of processes?
Well, if a ConnectWise partner is listening in on this, I'm sure they would say, ConnectWise got a lot to work on. We just did, right? Because growing, we grew and we didn't scale things as well as we probably should have. And we're getting back to working on that. But, and I know that not everyone has that challenge, right? There's not a lot of people saying, oh man, I got this massive growth. But for a business right now, what I saw is looking more to the tools, right? Like, how can these tools help us better do this, right? Like, instead of trying to muscle our way through this every day, because it leads to burnout, right? If you think, hey, we'll just do this manually, muscle our way through, people will burn out. So what I've seen the change is okay, these tools have processes and procedures to help us with automation. And I don't mean just automation of technical systems, automation of how you run your business. We've seen a big focus on that in ConnectWise, right? We have our university and there's a lot of materials on there. And we know because we see what materials people have been looking at. It's like, whoa, okay, they're looking at the workflow rules. They're looking at service statuses and okay. So people are getting focused on tightening up their processes. Because look, one of the big things too is, companies had to reduce things, right? They had to reduce spend. They had to, unfortunately, make maybe cuts with headcount. And when you do that, you still have to deliver the service. And look, and then there was the opposite, right? There were companies getting customers. As companies started looking at expenses, they started cutting their IT staff. They started outsourcing to MSPs. And you're like, whoa, I need to grow, but I also don't want to increase my expenses. Let's look at process automation, right? Let's look at how can we continue to deliver this with this automation. And then there's the tools, right? It's, again, then the technical tools, looking at okay, what is that tool doing for me? And then, this is, we've been talking about this forever. It's still, there's people challenge with it. It's like, you have the tools, you have them integrated to your business processes, but people still aren't using them with the full list of capabilities, right? Reducing clicks, reducing time. I'll use the technician as an example. How many techs love doing the administrative part of their job? I love creating a ticket. I love writing my notes. I love changing the status, right? No one, okay? What is it we love? Well, we love helping a customer. We love working on the technology. So it's like it's time to get back to the process and say, how can we take that part of their job away or reduce it to almost nothing, right? And this is what these tools and systems, you guys have systems that do, ConnectWise has systems that do this. And some people, it's the old, like, the cobbler, he makes the shoes for the village and then his kids are walking around bare feet, whatever that, I suck at that expression. But it's the same thing, right? A lot of IT companies, they're struggling themselves. So looking at that, right? How can we make our own teams' jobs easier? That's what the systems do. Look at that stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's one that I forget about, but because in my mind, I'm like, we're all doing that, right? And then I realized, wait, maybe not.
Yeah, I still remember that poster we always had, and I think I have to reprint that poster, that sign that says, if it's not in your ConnectWise, it did not happen. To your point, how many engineers like entering time, how many salespeople like kind of, updating their activities to opportunities, and customer experience team members, in terms of their touch points. I'm sure we all have processes, high touch point customers, medium, and then low touch point. But how many people, to your point, like doing that admin work? And I think those type of reminders we all need, that if it's not in your CRM, it did not happen, just so that we can cross-functionally and within function, if one team member is not there, the other person comes in, at least customer experience is not suffering when there's someone who's taking a day off.
Because think about it, right? You're providing technical services to your customer. Yeah. If you're calling the customer and then having to ask them technical questions, that doesn't look good. Like, hey, when was the last time this was worked on? Wait, this person did that? Hey, what's the IP address of this? Hey, what's that? Hey, I need to log in. Can you give me this? Like, that doesn't look good. I say this all the time, right? Amazon has changed the behaviors of everyone, has made us all raise the bar, right? Everybody wants everything to be easy. Like, how do you not already know this is probably what the customer's thinking. So processes and procedures and the tools, like, get them set up so that everyone has an easier job, including the customer.
So let's talk about the customer need. So from the people perspective, it's more empathy, being there with your team, figuring out a new way in this virtual world. How do we stay together as a team, stay connected, know about each other, and then being able to serve that customer right. But in terms of needs, so in the new world that we live in the new norm, what do you see from the customer perspective, how their needs have changed?
This is an easy one, and I'll simplify it with this: outcome. The outcome, right? When we weren't in this pandemic, we were all we had a little extra time, right? And we all had the luxury of being a little lazy, maybe a little sloppy on things. But now, like everyone, like our customers, right? Your customers listening to this, I'm not saying the ConnectWise partner or an IT by Design partner. I'm saying that at the very end, right? They are so consumed probably with anxiety in their business and what they're dealing with. Focus on the outcome that they want, right? So it's like whenever they're coming to you for technology, don't try and razzle dazzle them with numbers and hey, this system has this feature and this feature, or when they have a problem, focus on the outcome. Like when a customer has an issue, right, and they're coming to you with it, or you're proactive and you discover an issue, find out what the outcome is. Like, what is it they're trying to get all their people back up and working, right? Don't want them sitting around, or they want the technology to help them be competitive in this area, right? Instead of, look at this, 2 terabytes of this thing, and look at all this gigahertz, and look at this, look at that. The customer don't want to hear that anymore, right? They understand, that technology empowers their business. Technology does this. They get what technology can do for them now. The conversation has changed. It is, what is the outcome they're expecting? And if you focus on that, you will fulfill their needs. Trust me. So I'll give you a little takeaway for people here. Go out and Google or go to YouTube and look at jobs to be done. There's a video about Wendy's doing a little research on the customer needs for the chocolate shake. And they were shocked what they found the job the customer was hiring that chocolate shake to do and the outcome they were expecting from it, right? A lot of people just think, yeah, I want a treat. And I'm like, no, these people were getting it because it fulfilled this like time gap. And it was, and so with companies that are tuned into this, you would be surprised at what your customer might say is the job they're hiring you to get done, right? It could be different. It could be, a construction company might say, well, I'm hiring you so that I can get these buildings built on time. Like a lot of technology companies might say, wait, what? That's not what you're hiring me. You're hiring me to put these systems here and then fix them when they break. And the construction company is, no, I'm not. I need technology so that I can maintain the blueprints and schedule subcontractors and do this. And then that building get done on time. That's why I'm hiring an MSP. I need to get these buildings done on time so I make money, right? That's focusing on an outcome. It's a simple thing, but sometimes we have to stop and just like, wait, what? And because this is, I'm passionate about this. You see, I'm getting all handsy because this is a charge I'm leading inside ConnectWise right now. I'm like, guys, you're not paying attention to what our partners are looking for. You're focused on, look, click this button, look what this does. It's like, no. The outcome they're looking for is better cash flow. The outcome they're looking for is, less calls to the help desk and not just patching, right? So it's a pretty simple lesson. There's tons of stuff on the internet about it, but I really would encourage everyone to just go to YouTube and look up jobs to be done, Wendy's shake.
Jobs to be done.
It's a 5-minute thing that will hopefully change your brain to go, wait, and now you can have a way different conversation with your customer and get to their needs, right? And here's what I'd say, right? Now you're the service provider talking in their language and the competitors are not. The competitors are still, look, we're going to meet me in the cloud. And no, you're going to be in the cloud. Like, I guess I was thinking, well, yeah, what does this do for me?
Yeah. So customer experience, it's your competitive advantage at the end of the day, right? Yeah. And I'm so glad that you mentioned outcome-based effort or outcome-based approach. So if I ask you, Craig, how do you measure, what are the success measures for customer experience team, or what are the KPIs? How can you measure that success? Can you give us top 2-3 things that you recommend our partners can use to measure customer success in their organizations? Yeah.
The obvious one, NPS, right? NPS. Will the customer recommend you? Those common things. The NPS score. We're seeing. Oh, geez, I might get this wrong. I think it's customer effort score, CES. Are some that people are looking at. And then sentiment, and there's a lot of great tools on the market to capture customer sentiment because look, the age of just doing a survey at the end of a ticket is past us now. It's like, how are they feeling during the actual experience? And then there's the normal SLA KPIs, right? Like, how long is it taking for you to respond? How long is it taking for you to engage and resolve the challenge? And then if you're having interdepartmental transfers of issues, like went from the help desk to the NOC, help desk to the SOC, tracking that handoff as well in ownership. Those are the things I would be looking at.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. We pay a lot of attention here to when the customer comes on board, because that's when they are interacting with multiple departments. And it's like, okay, how can you take that customer from onboarding stage to delivery stage and without customer giving you too much information in a way that, okay, they have to give it to an onboarding team, and they have to give it to the delivery team, then they have to give it to, first they start with giving that information to the sales team. So how can we make it as efficient as possible that information flows from one function to another function in a seamless way?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and never forget, right? Don't measure the stuff for the sake of measuring it.
Yes.
Measure the stuff so that you can identify where you need to make improvement. And I'll end it with this. If your company is smaller size, right? You got under 100 employees, under 50, under 25, do it now.
Yeah.
Don't think, oh, yeah, we don't need that right now. We'll do it when we get bigger, right? You're a one-person company, do it. Because I'm here to tell you, it is significantly harder to make that kind of change when you are really big. Trust me.
I know. But just 5 years ago, we were like 50 people company and with a few partners, and now we are 500 plus. And how things change overnight, it gets tougher as you grow, as teams get bigger. So with the customer engagement survey or NPS, so do you recommend any kind of, any process where you're looking at your leading indicators and your lagging indicators? Because it's always important to look at the trend and reflect on that so that, you can choose right initiatives. Because one thing that I see with a lot of teams is that they pick a lot of initiatives. So you do a survey and they're like, they want to fix everything overnight. And that's not how it works. And they end up, not fixing anything. And the biggest challenge that I see that leaders are facing, especially now in this pandemic, is there's just so many things to fix, so many things to do, and they end up picking a lot of things. So in terms of lagging and leading indicators, any thoughts?
Just to the points there, it's like, don't try and change everything at once, because then you'll never know what worked, right? If you change a bunch at once, and then, hey, look, it improved, how are you going to know what specific thing it was? I was just working with a partner in your backyard there in New Jersey, and they're like, okay, we're changing these 6 things, and they were pretty drastic. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. I'd change one, give it a little time, measure it, and see if that's the thing that worked. Because look, we all get in the habit of doing it. We change all of this. We think all of it is fixing it. And then a lot of it is just wasted, and it's taking time that people should be focused in other areas. So I'm not really sure leading or which, but I would say that's my best advice. And it's hard because, you get panicky about, if I don't fix all of this, I'm going to lose so much. And it is hard to have patience during it, but it's good to have conversations with the customer, let them know you're working on it. We got that going on at ConnectWise right now. I'm constantly telling them we are working on it, and it's like, I need more. It's like, and we're getting there. We're chipping away to make sure that we're not wasting any effort. So I'd give that advice back too.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, we did the last podcast on what to fix first. Yeah, and there is this new book, and which we shared with our viewers last time. Because what to fix first is so important, and measuring success, doing things the new way, understanding the need of the customer, those are really, really important things for us to focus on. And Craig, thank you so much for joining me today. We truly, truly appreciate your time and you coming to our podcast and sharing very valuable insights, in terms of customer experience and overall leadership. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Sonny. Hey, I can't wait till the next time we can do this in person. Hopefully next year. Yes. But thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Sonny. And to the viewers, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this episode of Sunny Silver Linings. We hope you took away a nugget or two of information that you can implement and improve your overall customer experience that you're delivering to your partners. If you did, well, please honor us with a like, a subscribe, maybe even a share, and we'll see you in the next episode.